Hey, it's Chris Murphy, U.S. Senator from Connecticut. Thank you to my great friend Michael Dowling and the entire Northwell team for everything you do for our community, but also for this extraordinary set of work you've done to bring healthcare leaders from around the country together on a common set of work to reduce exposure to gun violence. You are correct to point out that gun violence is a public health epidemic. We often make a mistake by explaining the scope of this problem just through the prism of the number of people who die every day. 110 people is an extraordinary number of people to lose every single day to gunshot wounds. But there are infinite numbers of individuals, especially children, whose lives are impacted, interrupted, whether or not they ever get shot. I live in the south end of Hartford. It's a neighborhood with high rates of violence. And when I talk to kids in my neighborhood, and I do that often, they tell me that inside school they feel pretty safe compared to how unsafe they feel walking to and from school. Every single day they fear for their life, walking to and from their school. Their brain chemistry is altered. Their brains are broken by that constant exposure to violence and trauma. They are unable to learn, they are unable to make friends, they are unable to cope. That is one of the reasons why we talk about this as a public health epidemic. But we have good news this year as well. We passed in 2022 the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. That's the first bill in 3 decades to seriously tackle this epidemic of gun violence. 5 major changes in gun laws and $15 billion in money for community mental health, for school safety, and for community anti-gun violence efforts. A lot of skeptics around the country said, you can't legislate evil away. You can't, through legislation, dramatically change the trajectory of violence in our country. Well, they were wrong. Since the passage of the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, urban gun violence rates in this country have dropped by 12%. That is the biggest one-year drop in gun violence rates in the history of the country. Overall, gun violence rates have dropped by 10%, no matter where you live in this country. We never see one-year reductions like that. I'm not claiming that the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act is the entire reason for that reduction. There's really important good work that's happening all around our communities to try to reduce violence, but it is a big part of the story, and it is now available to us as proof of concept. When you pass serious bipartisan legislation to reduce the risk of gun violence, you get immediate returns. And so we need to continue to press for change. I'm not going to stop until we get universal background checks and a ban on assault weapons. I hope you won't stop either. But we have to spend some time this year with this good news explaining to people what happened. Because if nobody knows that gun violence rates in our cities dropped by double digits last year, if nobody knows that the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the bill we passed, is part of the reason why that happened, then nobody will be willing to invest in future change. Nobody will stick with the movement. We have to tell our success stories as much as we continue to press for more change. That's one of the opportunities you have at this convening. It's why I'm always grateful to be working with you, because we can tell the story of what we've done and we can continue to fight for more change on behalf of the kids and the families that we both represent.